Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to another scene for the Living World of Darkness, a rage across New York. And in this scene, as you know, is kind of commonplace, we're starting to step to the green. We're even starting to Tellurian side. And look at that, 10 point has finally shifted back down to Hamid. What a good meta it's being in that form that people are more comfortable with and shit. And she will probably, as much as she often is when she comes to visit Jacob, be in the process of removing her bells, which makes for a little extra jingling on the entrance, but no jingling after. Oh my god, you're ridiculous. And she will tuck them into her bag as she approaches the cabin. And if he is not already outside, will even go so far as to invite herself onto the porch to rap a knuckle on his door.
Oh, gee, I wonder who it is. It's a Silverfang.
Surprise!
You're one of those secret camera shows. You've been punked. It's just a prank. No. Jacob opens the door. You are met with a glowing smile of loveliness, and that you just want to hug, because he is so adorable.
I see the peer pressure happening here.
Jacob will no, as soon as he opens the door and sees it as you see him glowing. And so you say, "Oh, 10 point. Hey there, how you doing?"
I am doing rather well, Raya. It's a shame you missed the excitement earlier.
No, yes, it's Fearless Protector now, isn't it?
It would seem so. But much as some grew retain a name below their deed names, I am still comfortable with 10 point. Whether it is Fearless Protector or Heart's Mercy or Hunter's Boon, it is still 10 point.
Jacob will simply respect that with a nod. Still very happy to see you.
If I may take some of your time, Raya.
Of course, come in. Would you like something to drink?
And she kind of actually hesitates in the door, glancing back the way she came. I actually did not come alone, Raya.
Oh?
Aiden has asked if you would be willing to speak to him, and I thought it best if I was the one to ask it of you. I know you're not overly fond of him, Raya, but consider it a favor.
Jacob will look a little sad, but 10 point appears to be here on business, which sucks.
If he looks crestfallen enough, he'll finally get kind of the offered hug because she's awkward and it seems to make him happy.
Hugs make everything better.
I mean, if it lifts his mood even a little, it's good thing. So yeah, she'll.
Right now.
So yeah, he looks all crestfallen, and she's still standing like in that spot where you're kind of holding the screen door open with your body, and kind of awkwardly offers the arms up.
Take him now.
Dork.
Jacob gets what he wants.
It is hugs. He gets it.
Yes. Get a hug and Jacob looks so happy again.
I would be happy to remain.
I'd be remiss to have this conversation with you at the doorway.
Should I call him over then, Raya? And would you prefer to remain on the porch in that case? I didn't want to intrude.
I'd never consider you to be intruding. But sure, go ahead. If do you mean now, or
If you have the time, Raya.
kind of likes his watch? Player checks his watch.
It should not be long.
Okay. I guess it depends on what he intends to ask of me. Whether this is going to be drawn out or not. But, I mean... Yeah, you
It
can...
should not. He is doing better, Raya.
Well, yeah, sure, why not then? Yeah, you can call him over.
And yeah, there'll be that brief, kind of unfocused look about her. That kind of blatant, I'm pack linking some shit. And if he would like to either move onto the porch or actually, heavens forbid, would invite Aiden inside, wherever he settles, she will settle as well.
No, only 10 point gets invited inside.
That's what I figured. Why she hesitated at the door.
So...
Your fucking faces, god damn it.
Heals. Well, I mean, Jacob will make tea for you outside because he will insist you at least get tea. He has to show you hospitalities.
Madness.
So yeah, you get some tea made for you. And he will make tea for Aiden because, I mean, I guess he has to. He'd be like, I have to make tea. It is gone. Nah, he makes tea for him just fine.
Now I just need him to click the thing. I know his pooter is kind of slow. Come on, Torna. Come on. You can do it. But yeah, in the meantime, she will settle in on the porch and let him go through the process of making tea and whatnot, like he do. Oh God. After shooting off an what's the word I'm looking for? A confirmation to Aiden that it's cool to go ahead and come around. God damn your smileys.
Yeah, I mean, once he gets confirmation, he's sitting on the edge of his cabin anyway, so yeah.
You are a robot. Just to make things better.
1 sec. Okay,
Aiden's
am I less,
come to the scene and tables just flipped over.
yeah, am I less robotic?
You're still a robot.
Hang on, I'll reload. 1 second.
Sorry. No. Why you gotta be flipping tables?
I'm
Why you gotta be that way?
gonna be all the ways.
Why don't you why don't you like my pack mate? Big giant puppy eyes. Sniffle sniffle.
Do you have a puppy eyes emoticon?
I'm sure I could find one if I was really that invested.
I mean, I am, why aren't you?
I mean, I tend to I just stick to Old Faithful here. Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun.
Dun, 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 dun.
Well, I see you.
Has Robo Aiden still
Yes. Robo Aiden has left the building. You're good.
here? Yeah. Yeah, he's yeah, you just get visual. Yeah, you just get confirmation. He's sitting on the steps of his cabin, smoking, literally chain smoking like a fucking chimney.
And yeah, she essentially gives him the nudge to come on over to Jacob's cabin because we're going to be nice and meet him on his territory. That's what we're going to do.
There will be a visible size. That means he has to get up and get his packets of cigarettes, and he will get up and do so. And we'll take 2 beer bottles and put them in his pocket, grumbling as he walks over.
I'll hope he composes himself some before he's in sight.
Oh yeah, no, he just ruffles his hair, fixes his stuff, and still smoking a cigarette as he's walking over. And you see the big mop of curly hair then first, and then Aiden. He'll stand on the foot of the steps and won't step on them. Finish up his cigarette and kind of, put it in the little lighter thing. Jacob.
Aiden, take a seat.
Nod. Step onto his territory, having respected the litany and shit, and we'll plop down.
There is tea made for you.
He will all kind of like awkwardly look at the tea and just, he will pick it up and take sips from it. And Jacob could see clearly he had brought beer because he wasn't sure.
Jacob's a non-alcoholic. In what universe would he bring you beer, you heathen?
10 Point told you it was tea time. You did this to yourself.
So he'll just awkwardly stare at the tea, pick it up, take a sip, push the bottles further down his baggy pants.
10 Point, meanwhile, is now thoroughly distracted because she has tea and she can make it any way she wants to because it's on Jacob's porch. And yeah, she's literally just a pacifying force at this point. That's about it.
And Aiden will let the awkward silence build, and you hear the click, click, click of the lighter and cigarette as he takes a breath. So, came here to talk to you about a few things that me and the other Guardians were running through and an idea we had, and I was told to talk to you about it.
Well, interesting. What's the idea?
We're looking to get representatives for the kinfolk, and we're looking to have maybe as an official position for a liaison with them, so we have better lines of communication, so a repeat of what actually happened won't happen again, because I believe it was Chloe Raya who suggested the kinfolk come on set, which prompted the howl that the water did.
Yeah, no, I've got what's well, I suppose we've already effectively got a representative for them. I've been in contact with them for a while. I'm sure you know Jeremy at this point.
No, see, the problem I was having, and we were debating it, is that we need someone who's more of a neutral party to both the liberal sides and the traditional sides of the sept, I was thinking.
And to be fair, it was the traditional side that was urging that the kinfolk do whatever the gurus say without question, which led to the situation to begin with.
To be fair, he'll say the action, however wrong, was done with the best intentions. To be fair as well, a lot of them were put under, extreme danger. I think most of the traditionalists were out there in the front lines, from what I remember correctly.
I think most Garu were.
He'll just smile again, taking another drag.
Whatever the case, Ryaz, both traditional and liberal members of the sept followed the order, and both traditional and liberal members of the sept stepped up to try to make it right. Some were received better than others, which was unfortunate.
I mean, my issue currently is that, well, there are... One moment, there are at least two reasons. The first is that no one other than Jeremy has actually stepped up to the role. So that's the immediate issue we have here. Jeremy is the only guy who has stepped up. Second, he was the guy who actually stood up and effectively was their representative and has been for the past few months. That's whether there has been or there's being a position considered or not. That's who I've been communicating with. That's who I've been corresponding with to correspond with other Garu regarding the issue. That's the person who's been helping and coordinating with me to organize all the other kinfolk and make sure this gets sorted out. He's been representing them, and not only no one else really taken on that role, but he has also been the guy doing that for the longest time already.
Nod. As I said, I'm not looking to replace anybody. I'm just looking for the most suitable candidate, one that represents every need. That's more or less the objective. And if Jeremy's the guy to do it, well, then by all means, you know. I'm just making sure that both sides are taken into account. Because in the end, we'll just be doing a loop-de-loop all over again. Maybe
well,
even,
I mean, if you could clarify what you mean by both sides.
Aiden will kind of lean forward. There are some of us here, kinfolk included, who grew up in very different worlds to the people here in Sept of the Green. And we all know that. And some of them, I can imagine, feel certain ways. What I'm trying to achieve is a harmony between all the sides. There are some of us here who have grown up telling our kinfolk things, not keeping them ignorant, as has happened before here. The incident that occurred with the kinfolk was a melting pot of many issues, I feel, where everyone, not just the traditionalists, were to blame.
I believe he means in regards to Guru representation, Raya, not necessarily the kin.
Well, Guru representation, we need to pick a party that both sides of us get on with. Someone who is fair in their judgment, but also has the harshness as well to clamp down if there is any incident. Someone who both agrees, and I wouldn't say agrees, someone who can empathize with both sides and where they come from, both from kin and from the Guru as well, in terms of the Guru aspect. And plus, if they see us working an actual set position to work to their needs, it might make them a bit more open up to things as well, with this candidate of yours.
Mm. Well, I suppose I mean, as the person who's been I can't think of anyone who's been more heavily involved in this issue other than Katche currently. Perhaps, maybe, but William wasn't even there at the riot. In terms of the kinfolk, there is truly only one option. It's Jeremy. He's the only guy who's been stepping up. He's done a lot of good. He brought the issue to the forefront. He's played his role in getting that resolved. And to be fair, if he wanted it to go down a much more dangerous or negative route, he could have enabled that and encouraged that, and he didn't.
Yeah, he'll do. He'll do fine. The Guru side, maybe click his lips and think. There are many other traditions that have opposed the Katche. We know that. It's been obvious.
I'm interested in what Garu you'd recommend to liaison with the kinfolk, because so far it's been, well, largely myself, to be honest. I know there's been more localized efforts among different Garu and their claim kin, but when it comes to generalized representation, not just between the unclaimed, but between the kinfolk in general, it's largely been me and Jeremy corresponding with one another, me putting Jeremy in contact with local officials such as the Wormfoe, which I did, he counts, about a week or two ago now.
I'm sure, I don't know, have you heard it that the hotel industries are along that after getting a recent influx of employment, particularly around the Manhattan area? All kinfolk jobs. Yeah, Aiden will smirk. I prefer to keep my work quiet. Do you know, that's just me. You just shrug. No, you can tell there's no spite in it. He just shrugs to himself, takes another drag. And he'll think long and very hard and think and think and think. From the Garrow side, I would not offer myself up. No way. I'm not that type of thing. I need to think again. Dallas, no. Felix, maybe. Thinks again. Shinlo is a good option. The guy, the stargazer, but he is young and has no experience, but he preaches the right ideals. Perhaps even, it depends on what you're looking for from this sort of person, Jacob. What do you want out of that liaison is the first question. Because I could give you a list of names, but we're going to have to work together on this if we're going to pick the right one. So what do you want out of this thing, out of this liaison for them to be?
If I were to pick one trait, it would be understanding. I can see why you'd pick Shinlo, because he's got one of your valued traits, which would be temperance. Which, as I understand, is something that stargazers in particular trend towards striving for, which is beneficial in this case. And we have actually a surprising amount of stargazer kin on set.
He'd nod as well. There is a lot of them, aye.
If my mic was on. For what it's worth, Reyes, putting a person in this position does not give them exclusive access, after all. Much like the worm foe is responsible for numerous guardians, it would simply be someone whom in the end took responsibility for whatever actions were taken and was the guiding force in it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, well, it does actually speak to a concern of mine as to how to put it.
It would prevent the same mistake from happening twice, where it was hard to hunt down the source of the problem.
Oh, the source of the problem was a miscommunication, largely between an order being relayed, that being delivered to the Guardians, and no one from the Guardians upwards to the Warder actually relaying that appropriately to the kinfolk at large. I've already figured that out. I've already solved that mystery. I went knee-deep into that. I can confirm and verify that much. It was largely based on a misunderstanding. One that ended in a near humanitarian disaster, but based on a misunderstanding and a miscommunication. I think it would be fair to say that no one was intending to keep the kinfolk prisoner or anything. There was no nefarious scheme at play. Like most things, it came down to a problem of bureaucracy.
Most of us were out hunting the spirals, to be fair. And most of us were in grief.
I mean, I was out hunting the spirals. Actually, I should note that the Striders in particular were left completely out of the loop, largely due to the fact that we didn't have a member of our own pack and the Guardians have a... That's not something I blame anyone for. That's just something to note. Which is why we didn't bring up the issue. And why, when I encountered the issue, I was as shocked and angry as I was, because obviously the issue had escalated without me being able to interact with it.
To be fair, Jacob, from what I heard from Eric himself, he has said that he has every pack in the Guardian chain. And to be fair as well, I did make a howl of war, inviting every member of the SEP to join in. And we did go on that mission. He'll look at 10 Point, nodding.
And she echoes the nod lightly.
Well, I can confirm that we don't have a member of the Striders in the Guardians.
You actually would stroke his chin at that.
Because Chloe is not, Kailani to my knowledge is not, and Nikache to my knowledge is not. And I'm certainly not. I don't have the time. Because I have a full-time working job, so I would not be able to commit to that.
You think? I might make a suggestion to Eric, maybe get Katja maybe for the guardianship. She seems to be the most active in terms of in some of the particular missions as well, particularly with second chance plastics. I might talk to Eric about that if you want.
Yeah, of course it depends on what Katja wants as well.
Oh, of course. I just might put in if she's game.
No.
I could put in the recommendation.
I'll have a chat with her about it, and I'll get back to you on that as soon as possible. Don't worry, I'll get back to you within a day. Shouldn't be a problem.
He'll just nod.
I appreciate the offer.
He'll just nod if it makes things easier, so that doesn't happen. He'll just nod.
No, we should also note that people without a pack are also left out of the loop, because if they don't have a pack, then they're not in a position to know.
That's something we are trying to resolve, particularly Felix and I, with more up to date boards and more up to date howls and recent things, and we're trying to assign people to particular things so the packless aren't left out. So that is a problem that we're trying to fix, but it's definitely one that's going to be more of a long-term issue and more consistency needed. Definitely, you'll nod.
I think we could go on about the source for a while, but we've gone off on a tangent.
You'll nod. Yeah, you'll just nod.
I think
Katja's a good candidate. She is. She's got a lot of spirit to her. However, he will lean forward. There are some, particularly on the get, that do not take kindly to her. And that's not my issue. That's theirs. But it does make things very tense, if you get what I'm saying.
If they want to challenge over it, they can challenge over it. But until they challenge over it, it's really no one else's problem but their own. If they feel that strongly about it, they can act on it. If they're not willing to act on it, then their words don't matter.
Their words don't matter, but yet we want to keep both sides as kosher as we can. And maybe putting someone who will cause such brazen tension might not be the best course. It'll be like putting me in charge of the Liberals. I think that will cause a lot of tension, if you get what I'm saying.
Well, at the end of the day, no matter who's picked, someone is going to make someone unhappy because we cannot please everyone. That's just a simple fact. Like, one is a cliff. I ran into that lesson pretty early on. You cannot please everyone. It's just a sad fact of life. But,
I know that. It's just, we have to weigh out the pros and the cons from what I'm thinking.
The thing is, I have to rule myself out, of course, because of my job and the fact that most of my activities to serve the SEP take place off of it. In regards to constructing power bases outside the SEPs, Chloe could be, but she is of rank equal to the Wormfoe himself. And there's a command chain clash there that is very real, and the fact that Eric is her former packmate, and there are still issues there.
You nod. No, that's a fair argument. That is, no, I would agree.
Which would leave either Katja or Kailani, and Kailani, I think, you'll find is often simply not available due to basically mothering her cubs. So parenthood, basically. And as a lupus, that takes a very different form than our own.
Same with Teresa, she's the equal rank to Skovgard. That could cause tension as well.
Yeah, Teresa I wouldn't recommend as a guardian because she's perfectly capable for the role, but as a command chainer,
So it has to be someone around the Cleath or Fossen territory, I'm thinking, so that it doesn't affect the command chain too much. And there is that appropriate level of command.
Reyes,
Which-
may I be blunt?
Yeah,
Oh
you can
yes,
look over.
please do.
You look over and just nod once.
And there is a brief glance cast Aiden's direction. If Myria and William White can survive being guardians together, then I suppose that Skovgard Raya and Katja can survive being commander and subordinate. Dislike does not keep someone from doing a job. And as has been said, there are too many conflicts with every other member of your pack. If one was to volunteer for Guardian, she seems the most, well, the only really possible candidate.
Yeah. Of course, this is still all dependent on Katja agreeing to the role.
Of course.
Or not.
But yeah, I think if we were to make that choice, she would be the only one.
If she agrees, I'll put in a word with Eric and give her a recommendation and all that. Make it easier. I can have Felix do the same.
Let's that issue out of the way. I think in regards to I suppose what can only be considered what are effectively two diplomats on two opposite sides. Well, the same side, but you understand what I mean.
Oh, totally.
My concern is how legitimate is this position, as in how much force can be applied here, or or is it going to be one of ceremony? Because I don't think either side is interested in that.
No,
especially
I don't
since
think.
there is.
I don't think ceremonial will do. I think we need to have some weight behind it in order to have it effective.
Yeah, because if it's ceremonial, the kin have already had it up to here, and they're savvy. They wouldn't.
Yeah.
As a former president once said, you can fool some of the people all of the time, and some of the people all of the time, but not all of the people all of the time. Even if we were being malicious about it, there would be no chance of success.
He'd nod. No, there would have to be some weight behind it. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense. So maybe we could even approach the alpha with the position, and have her legitimize it.
In the end, it would be advantageous, I think, to have someone there to speak for the unclaimed and those who do not have members of the appropriate tribe present to speak for them or to advocate for them. And that does carry some weight.
I mean, there is one suggestion I could suggest, and you'll look over it as Omega. My Omega has displayed money, well, in forward ideas and thinking, and has often been a source of advice attributed to her auspice. And she has often compromised herself so often for kin, particularly among some of the incidents with the spirals. If I was to pick someone for the traditional side in some ways, I would ask her opinion. You would look at 10 Point actually nodding.
There's the brief deer in headlights expression.
The problem is, though, there are a number of people who would not follow a menace. And we know that. However, I have a lovely opinion. I am traditional, but I am not stupid. And I think she's a good candidate for the position.
Stupid huggy emotes. I can't.
He'll light a cigarette and look at her dead-eyed in the face. Like, yeah, I caught you with that one, didn't I?
He did. She froze up for a hot second and is now just kind of staring at her tea. She's not even pretending to drink it anymore. She's just staring at it.
The point I'm making, Jacob, is she earned her deed name today fighting that whatever fucking thing that was by running into the Sept castle and making sure the kin got out alive, making sure that every single one of them was healed and they were appropriately handled. I think out of anyone from our side of the camp, she is the perfect candidate.
See, think the issue we're going to run over here is that I don't think there's anyone we could really consider to be a balance of the two ideologies on set, largely because in many ways they're opposed to one another. Especially considering the very nature of the set, you get it's a melting pot, but in many ways it's more like a fractured mirror. You have many little pieces that don't necessarily always fit into place. That all have their own boundaries. So you have a bunch of separated social circles. Perhaps a better term would be it's not a melting pot. It's about a dozen little pots, all on their lonesome in many ways. I mean, 10 point, yeah, absolutely valid choice. Probably one of the best. I think outside of have I catch on myself because again I've already been doing this for like the past month and a half. So really, I think it would come down to us three, really. Because I mean, the only reason I put myself forward is because I've been doing this for a long time already. Even before this happened.
And Aiden will lean back. Why not all of you three as a sort of council rather than just a standard one? Wouldn't that make more sense? You said a melting pot. You three cover all areas.
That's a valid option. I just don't want to risk this turning into a bureaucracy of its own. And if the power splits up between us, it loses its weight. And I don't want it to turn into a dog and pony show.
If it came down to it, Raya, and it just meant accepting the responsibility, I don't mind doing that much. But I know very little of human life and works and jobs, and I would inevitably have to turn to you and to Felix to help with such matters as that. It would be much like the keeper of the land having keepers, or the warder having guardians.
Could actually just be the two of us to work out things amongst ourselves, fulfills the criteria, and we have expertise in different areas that can serve our role, so we can put off each other.
Ain't no not. I mean, that seems like a valid option to me. It seems to be answering the points we need to make. Both covers both angles,
and it doesn't turn into what would you say a clown car of individuals. Still just the two of us.
Exactly. Much harder and much more concrete and less easy to influence over particular decisions as well. I think it's a valid choice.
Note the 10 point is still shaken enough that her tea has still not moved. That's it. You can go ahead and talk. That was all I had.
Jacob just kind of looks over 10 point, looks back to Aiden, and says, "Yeah, and if we do need to decide that it's just the one of us, I mean, it's not like it restricts access. Because at the end of the day, if this role prevented me from doing what I'm already doing, I would oppose it unilaterally. Because it would be preventing me from literally resolving the issue that I have spent the vast majority of my time resolving. Then I can imagine it would probably annoy the Ken a lot as well. Not because I'm being cut out of the equation, but because they would be cut out of the decision. So I guess that's my suggestion to you. If it's going to be one of us, I would suggest myself, and I'm not going to prevent anyone from interacting with their kin, making suggestions or trying to resolve issues on their own as long as they don't exacerbate it. If it's going to be two of us, then I would say it would probably be myself and 10 point.
I'd say 2. Keep things more multi-layered, I would say, because the end of the day, people always take it into their own hands. And 10 Point has a better understanding of some of the issues affecting the others. So if the business does need to be handled on its own, she can advise you, or you can advise her, and then advise each other on the situation. I think two heads are better than one in this case.
For what it is worth, it is probably wise to have at least one person who can spend a greater amount of time on Sept and speaking to individuals and finding out what they are doing and keeping track of the lot. You have certainly done more than I have, but I hear more.
I think in the end of the day, the both of you make a perfect partnership for this. And that would be my suggestion.
If both of my Rayas think it is wise.
I believe it would be.
Perfectly wise, 10 Point. He'll smile.
She will eventually finally kind of manifest a shy sort of smile.
Jacob chilly to you on the sidelines. And with that resolved, I think we can probably begin preparing to bring this to the Alpha, because we could bring this to other officials, but frankly, Mother Larissa is the only person that can legitimize this fully.
He'll just not know. That makes sense.
And
all
she
other
does
ranks
care
fall
for
in.
the king.
Oh, sorry. And other ranks fall in different purviews. Like a warder wouldn't be able to legitimize a kin issue, really.
No, the Alpha makes sense. She's the one who has the final say, so that makes sense.
Hopefully, if I make Adrian, I'll be able to push enough weight for this to happen and to matter.
Well, I can work my magic with the others as well and make sure that my side, at least, remains totally supportive of this. And I can have my pack do the same.
I'll support that. My pack's already behind me on the issue, so all I need to do is drop the word to them.
Yeah, well, Banshee is back and Balian is Balian, so we're the ones spearheading this, and we wouldn't have selected our dear Omega if we didn't think she was able. It'll smile over at 10 Point.
10 Point is trying not to look slightly betrayed.
You fail.
Just like, but why? Why would you not tell me the thing? Why would you all talk about the thing and not tell me the thing? Why, senpai?
He'll just nod. That's all I have anyway, apart from everything's all quiet on the Western Frontier pack-wise, so we're all good.
Yep. Looks all good. As do you have a Shadowrun? Do the Shadowrunners know about this? Because I don't want to be running into another political mess between packs, arguing about what they should and should not be doing with kin.
I am meeting with Saoirse the Beta in the next few days, and I'm going to be informing her of this decision. She is advantageous and supportive of 10 Point herself, so you're definitely looking at a positive from the Shadowrunners.
Okay, that's good to hear.
I've made sure my people are on side on this. He'll just nod, you know.
Yeah, I'll go have a word with Jeremy about this. To be honest, I'll need to convince him that there's actual weight behind the position, because I don't think he'd agree otherwise, because he's sharp to these things.
He'll nod. Tell him the truth. You're going towards Adrian. 10 Point has a lot of connections and the backing of all the traditionalists. So tell him the truth. And I think honesty is the best policy here, Jacob.
There is actually a little bit of a silence when you say that, but he will say, Yeah, no, I agree.
He'll just nod. Well, thank you for your time. He'll just stand up and finally open one of the beer bottles and put the thing in his pocket. Nods and will, start whistling as he's walking back to his cabin, taking a drink.
10 Point will remain seated and at least moderately flustered. And kind of glance over to Jacob to get an assessment as Aiden is getting, off on his own.
If you're feeling comfortable about this, you can refuse. It is your choice.
I have not often personally interacted with the kin besides the deeds that I have done. I would still be willing to take responsibility and ensure that you knew all that I did, however. But it would still be you who did most of the talking, especially to those in the city. But if this were to become official, there is a good bit that I have to inform you on, as far as the connections we have made with other groups of kin. There's some up in the northern part of the state that have been relieved of a hazard and armed against future ones. We're still investigating the root of it, but there's still a good number of them there. They seem to be lodged in a spot between our protectorate and another, so they have seen little of our attention and care, or theirs, until we were called in to check out something of interest.
What is it? If I may ask, what is it that they've been armed against? What was the point of interest?
They were confronted with something that was roughly the size of a Krynos-Guru. Thankfully, they were not directly confronted, and it was only the loss of some cows, but it was still something that, should it return, could have been a threat, particularly as it was shot at and injured. So we have investigated. We have found that there are old families out in the mountains, old bloodlines, old feuds. And either of these two families seems to have taken one method or another. One has weaponized their wealth, and one has weaponized some sort of magics, not spirits, not anything I recognize, but have been using it, much as we would use razor claws or toughen our hide. They have done this while the other arms themselves with incredibly expensive weaponry and armor. We were lucky enough to make a windfall after one of their feuds and turned all of it over to the kin.
I see.
Most seem to be Getkin and have taken a good liking to Dallas. And while I haven't puzzled everything out yet, I still have 3 journals, 3 letters, 1 giant gilded book, and 3 brains to pour over. It's something of a process.
Sounds gross.
Yes. And as of yet, it has been nothing that our small group hasn't been able to deal with, so long as we deal with it wisely. But it has definitely opened a whole new group of kin. Most of them the farming type, living on large stretches of land, tending cattle, tending fields. Definitely a change from the city, something I understand slightly better.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is outside outside the county.
Far north, right?
Yeah.
As I said, just far enough to be outside our protectorate, but not within another. It has occurred to us that we might need to speak to the Alpha, or whomever is appropriate, about extending our protectorate to include them. It is not as if we'd be stepping on someone else's toes, unless there is something to be said for that unclaimed portion in between. But that could become political and more your field.
Oh, if anyone's claimed it and you're looking to protect the kin there, I wouldn't. If I were the Alpha, I wouldn't really see any reason to refuse.
I shouldn't think so, but this is another case where my expertise only goes so far. I'd like to think that our skill sets in this would overlap nicely. I'm also working on trying to find the proper spirit to empower a Talon, something simple enough for kinfolk to use. Something they can carry with them so that should they volunteer themselves to step in and aid us in something, they can be given this, and should they come into danger, we would have a way of knowing and coming to their aid. Perhaps a kinfetch.
Kinfetch?
Kind of rubs at her chin a bit.
I'm sure there's some sort of Talon or fetish that could suit those purposes as well.
Oh, there are. There's the Horn of Distress, but to mass produce a fetish, to make sure that there were enough so that I know that many turn to their kin to be their eyes and ears in the city. And if those eyes and ears have to go somewhere dangerous, I would like them to have something. And something small and simple might be easier to create in numbers.
No, I agree. Fetish might be pushing our luck a little bit too much.
They're much harder, much more costly in time and resources to create. But there's that. There are various groups of kin that all have access to, and if between you and I, we could learn who had kin, who had them potentially in a place where they might be in danger, if they needed something for their kin, and could coordinate better, things like this would never happen again.
No, I agree. The more lines of communication we have with our kin, the better. This ultimately started because of a miscommunication that wasn't handled.
And she nods agreement.
There is a certain implication there.
It happened and it was unfortunate, Raya, but at this point, digging back into it, when things are finally settling and we have so many enemies at the gates, doesn't seem like it will benefit anyone. But taking a step forward and showing the kin that we value them enough to generate a position that will hold influence and hold sway and be able to ensure that they're being treated as they're meant to be. For all our traditions, Raya, you cannot hold a Fianna in any way less than favorably when it comes to family.
I certainly hope that's true.
We would do anything. We would do anything for our kin, Raya. Anything.
Took some cajoling from some other people.
If there was a misunderstanding in the past, so be it. But even Mariah has done nothing but try his best to offer everything he's had. It may not always come across so well as he means it.
I won't repeat my prior statement, only that I was witness what I was witness to. From what I witnessed, it took some pressure
And
for that to happen.
from what I witnessed...
Not just him, it was a lot of people.
True.
Like, I don't
And I
want to give
should
the
not make
impression
this
that
personal.
No. I'm not trying to squarely place the blame on him. In my opinion, a lot of people are responsible for this, and the only reason I don't hold my pack responsible is because we happen to be kept out of the loop through sheer circumstance, because it was a communication error. If it were any other situation and we were kept in the loop and this what happened anyway, I'd consider my pack just as responsible, if not more so. And I am still responsible because I should have been keeping an eye on this to begin with anyway. When the kin were trapped on Sept, I should have spoke up about it, and I didn't. So at the end of the day, this is in many ways moot, regardless.
The important thing is that it will not be repeated.
Exactly. So yeah, I'll have a chat with Jeremy. I'll have a chat with Katche. I'll get back to you and Aiden about that, and then we'll have a chat with the Arthur. If there's anything you need, I suppose regarding your future responsibility, you can always turn to me.
Of course. And she'll actually reach out and, like, set a hand on his arm. I already turned to you.
I'm happy you feel you can.
And at the risk of making an odd request again, I have learned more about human anatomy. But if I get a hold of another one of these things, someone who knows more than me, someone who would know what was out of place, it seems like they put things in their bodies to enable whatever sick magics they're using. We've seen twisted versions of Get runes. We've seen twisted versions of Fianna's symbols and triads. It's very, very derivative to the point that it is nothing like the original. But it's distressing all the same. Perhaps if we could figure out what they were using and how it worked, Raya, we could do more to either cancel it out or keep them from doing it again.
Well, I'll see if I can look into that for you. I'm no doctor, but I actually do know someone who is.
That would be very advantageous. If necessary, I would even bring one of the bodies back with me, though I don't guarantee it would smell but so good by the end of the trip. It's a several-hour drive.
Yeah, you'd need specialist equipment for that.
I can, however, bring them to the bodies. And the upside of this farming of cattle is that there are very large buildings as coolers for holding meat. It's easy enough to store them, not easy to travel with them.
Who thinks on this? That's interesting. Well, I'll see if I can get you that, Doctor. I know of at least one, although he's not always. He has a pretty. He gestures with his hands. Tight schedule. I'm sure he can make time, but it's not always a simple task, and his state of being is complicates things.
She kind of knits her brow.
That's a vague statement. It's nothing you need to worry about. It's actually a positive thing for us, but I'm not at liberty to divulge what that is.
Of course.
But it is actually a good thing for once.
And as she has finished her tea, she'll set it aside and probably finally rouse up, again, setting a very thankful hand on his shoulder. Thank you, Raya. I know that the two of you butt heads. I know that he and most butt heads. But his heart is in the right place.
There is a slight smirk from Jacob. He says, well, if it's not, it will be.
It will.
I think he's been fair on this occasion. I have no reason to challenge him or raise my voice on a matter. He came to me. And I appreciate that.
And she'll offer a light smile. Would you like me to help you pick things up before I go?
Thanks, I'd appreciate that.
And yeah, she will set dutifully about helping him collect the various tea things and bring them in. Because, gasp, she's allowed in his cabin. Scandal. And help him with the dishes and whatnot. Set things straight before she eventually heads back out towards her own cabin, not even reaching into her bag for the bells until she's well away. Oh,
Yeah.
fine. He gets a hug before she goes. Because you're needy. So needy. No, he does. He gets a properly thankful hug once they're at the same height before she goes ahead and heads out.
Yay.
Oh my god, you're such a dork. And yeah, with that, I should say it should be safe to finally end this scene. So I will say thank you, players, for playing, and watchers for watching, and we will see you next time on the Living World of Darkness, Rage Across New York.